start out with, I wanted to do this video because there's a misconception out there about vegans. I hear it a lot that they think people lose weight automatically, and once you're vegan, you're fine. But there's a way to be healthy, and there's a way to be an unhealthy vegan, and that's kind of what I wanted to focus on. How to be a healthy vegan. Because I went plant-based. Well, actually, 7 years ago, I was probably mostly plant-based, but I completely cut out animal products 2.5 years ago. And,
When did you first start to read some of my books?
Oh, that was back in 2012. I
20...
first learned of you on Dr. Oz's show.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So, when you first learned of that, did you not follow it for a while, or it took you a while to get into it?
No, I did. It's just I had minimal animal products at the time.
Right. So how
I
much animal
your plan? I've had
products were you eating back then when you first started?
I'm sorry, you broke up there.
Yeah, say that one more time.
Oh, I was eating primarily the G-bombs starting in 2012. I believe that's what helped me lose the weight.
And then how much animal products were you eating back then?
I'd say I was very minimal, like chicken or eggs, but it wasn't every day.
Mm-hmm.
It was more like maybe 3 or 4 times a week. If I was eating animal products, as you say in your book, one day, then I would make sure I didn't have it the next day.
Right.
Yeah, eventually I became ethical about being a vegan, so that's why I went completely plant-based. But I still follow the G-bombs foods. That's the basics of my diet every day.
Right. I want people to eat a large salad at least once a day and put in their salad some cruciferous greens like arugula or watercress or bok choy or kale or cabbage on top of their salad, because scientific literature suggests that these cruciferous greens have an enzyme called myrosinase in the cell wall. That enzyme is heat sensitive. So when we eat those foods raw, we maximize the production of these very powerful compounds called isothiocyanates, ITCs, that are perhaps the most powerful anti-cancer phytonutrients in natural foods. So we eat a lot of green vegetables, and there's green vegetables in general show the best association with longer life, reduced risk of heart attack, strokes, dementia, cancers. They're very, very powerful. So we want people to eat a good portion of them, a good large-sized salad at least once a day. And to facilitate the absorption of all the anti-cancer compounds in the vegetables you're eating.
Now, I'm sorry, what are your beliefs of the percentage of raw versus cooked? Because I know you say, like, cook the mushrooms. What do you think is a good percentage? Because I do have a great deal of raw with all the salads, but do you think there's a certain percentage?
Well, I want people to eat a large salad every day.
Yeah.
At least once a day. So I don't know if they have to count their percentage by calories, because salad is so low in calories that if you did it by caloric percent, it might be relatively low.
Oh, yeah.
But by volume, it's a large, it might be, half the meal or more, because I want the soup, let's say the lunch might be a bowl of vegetable bean soup that's cooked and a big salad and maybe a piece of fruit. If you weighed the fruit in the salad, it may come to the same volume as this vegetable, the bean soup, but because of the low caloric density in the salad, except for the nuts and seeds have a higher caloric density, maybe they would be equal. Let's say your meal had 500 calories in it. Well, you probably had, 50 calories in the salad, maybe an ounce of nuts in the salad dressing, a half an ounce to an ounce of nuts in the dressing could be, somewhere between around 100 calories or 75 to 175 calories. So let's say it had 100 calories in the dressing, 150 in the salad. So maybe that was 100, that wasn't even a third of the meal, maybe another 60 calories in the fruit. So that made about 200 calories in the raw. And then your soup was 200 calories, was cooked with the beans, or maybe that was, was big. So maybe it might've been 50-50, but I really don't think it matters whether it's 50-50, 60-40, 40-60, 30-70. I don't think that's the issue really, as long as you're eating a sufficient amount of vegetables overall in your daily diet. And foods you should be eating cooked, like the Like
The
the
mushrooms, of
beans
course.
particularly have to be cooked. But what I was saying earlier was that what's critical and important is to add at least a half an ounce of nuts and seeds with the meal, because that facilitates the absorption of not just the carotenoids, but the lipophilic phytonutrients like the terpenes and the other important anti-cancer sterols and stanols and vitamin E fragments. And we're finding out among plant-based populations, like in the Seventh-day Adventist study, those vegans or near vegans who were not eating nuts and seeds had a 39% increased risk of cardiovascular death when followed for decades, compared to those people who were vegans or near vegans who were eating more nuts and seeds. About an ounce and a half a day was on the, because the Seventh-day Adventist Health Studies too divided that nut and seed intake into 5 different quintiles, and the lowest quintile compared to the highest quintile showed a huge difference in health and longevity. So we know that a lot of vegans are, been under this false sense of this false concept that fat is our enemy, and that it's not just avoiding oil, but avoiding nuts and seeds is okay or beneficial or can help heart disease or something like that. And in reality, it puts people at danger.
Oh, I agree. I mean, I'm a strong believer in that too. I have nuts every day.
Yeah.
And good variety too. I think it's important to have variety. Yeah,
Absolutely. And it shouldn't be a belief system, because we have to go with the overwhelming amount of evidence. And it's there's literally hundreds of studies that show the same thing. Every study shows the same thing. A little more nuts and seeds, longer life, more green vegetables, longer lifespan. And what you said, the other G bombs you mentioned earlier, the fact that the beans and the onions, and the beans are cooked. The onions, we can be raw and cooked, but raw onions are very powerful. And mushrooms, especially cooked mushrooms, have very powerful beneficial effects on the body's anti-cancer. And they have aromatase inhibitors, which lower estrogen production and that stimulate breast or prostate tissue into forming breast or prostate cancer. And they also have angiogenesis inhibitors, which prevents abnormal cells from receiving a blood supply, choking off their life. And they also have immune recognition benefits that help the immune system recognize abnormal cells, so the body can induce apoptosis or autophagy. In other words, they can try to eat up or destroy those cells and replace them with new stem cells. The body can recognize senescent or aging cells that could get into trouble, or damaged cells, and mushrooms aid the body's immune recognition. So we're talking about G-bombs, which include greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds. And of course, berries and seeds, people know that seeds like flax seeds, chia seeds, sesame seeds are rich in these lignans that also have beneficial hormonal effects to lower estrogen stimulation and dramatically protect against cancer. The whole portfolio of a nutritarian diet checks every box that can lead to enhanced longevity, not leaving any stone unturned that may benefit your long-term and future health. And that's where the little differences make a huge difference when you get to be 80 or 90 years old. You want to have excellent health and really live to be 100.
Yeah, that's my goal. I want to have a long life. I want to be med-free. I think so many people out there want to be, and that's why I spread the message about.
That's right. It's lifespan, it's health span, and it's play span. It's not just lifespan. We don't want to live longer and be demented.
Exactly.
Health span, right? And you don't want to live longer and be stuck on it with such bad condition you can't enjoy your life and play and do things you like to do. So that's why the nutritarian diet is so worth it, because the things you want to accomplish in life, the things you enjoy doing that give you your happiness and that can make you really want to enjoy your life, you continue to do as you age. And it's enjoying your lifespan. It's keeping yourself younger. And there's nothing like this nutritarian principles that have the effect to suppress your appetite and make you just moderately caloric restrict. That's that moderate caloric restriction in the environment of micronutrient excellence. Oh, excuse me, I gotta make it.
Rob, glad you can make it.
Hey, oh my gosh, you guys, Dr. Joe Fuhrman and Rich.
Oh, there's Rich. Oh, there's Rob.
Yes,
Rob's on there. Yeah. And here's Petey. Petey's joining me.
It's so wonderful to be able
to. Do you want to see Petey?
Oh, what a great talk.
He's with He's a nutritarian dog.
I am so sorry, doctor. Hey, Pete, the dog is nutritarian too, my friend.
Right.
Doctor. Yes, awesome. I just want to say it's a pleasure and to be able to. I really hope that I'm not interrupting anything you have changed, like you have changed so many others. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
My pleasure. Glad you're here, and glad you guys are taking great care of your health and encouraging others to do the same.
Oh, definitely, always. Yeah, always promote the G bonds.
Incredible.
The next question, I wanted to talk about supplements too, because a lot of vegans are very stubborn about taking B12, and I know it's very vital. And I wanted you to maybe talk about what supplements are important to take. I mean, I know B12 is definitely one of them, but is there certain basic?
Well, I agree. I think there's a negative backlash against this idea that we need supplements, or that supplements are bad, or that people are doing it to make money and it's a scam and all this stuff. People are so skeptical, but I personally understand that petroleum-based and synthetic supplements contain dangerous substances in them: synthetic vitamin E, isolated vitamin E fragments, beta carotene, folic acid. We can give a whole bunch of examples where supplements are harmful. But the other concept that has to be understood is that when you're following a vegan diet, which may slow aging, make you live longer, you're still not achieving optimal amounts of certain nutrients. And those suboptimal amounts could dramatically get you in trouble in later years or shorten your life. Because the amount of nutrients you need to survive your present needs are not the same nutrition you need to promote longevity proteins and make you and live to be 100 years old. So being moderately deficient can make you get by right now without getting scurvy or without getting, pellagra. But the facts is that a vegan diet over time, these marginal nutritional deficiencies create an increase of depression, dementia, or really problems later on in life. And we're talking here about not just B12, but also omega-3 fatty acids, EPA and DHA, which can get a lot of later life vegans in trouble if they've had low levels for many years. And also for some people, you have to be careful with zinc, because some people need more zinc, especially as they age, and you only absorb about 20% of the zinc on a vegan diet. So every person is not the same. Right. My 30 years in practice as a physician caring for this community, I have to be very, on top of this to make sure people don't get into trouble, because I see the people that get into trouble and they ask me to solve their difficulties and make sure they didn't do something that hurt them. When people become depressed or demented or have problems, we have to figure out what they did wrong. And so many people get in trouble on vegan diets. So what I'm saying right now is taking sufficient B12, making sure you're not vitamin D deficient, making sure you're not taking, that you're not DHA and EPA deficient, because so many vegans pull studies down to show that it doesn't help to take fish oil or DHA and EPA, but they're looking at populations who are eating fish, and giving more DHA and EPA to fish-eating populations don't show a benefit. But we look at people not eating fish, and we look at the EPA, DHA supplementation of those people, it does show a protective benefit. And especially when we look at people with DHA, EPA deficiencies, you do show higher risk of depression, brain shrinkage with aging, and definitely damage occurs. So people are twisting and misinterpreting the literature, they're taking aggressive and radical risks with people's lives and people's brains. So in one sense, I'm very critical of the vegan community. They can be very radical and very, their very radical approach gets people in trouble. And I've been the one seeing these people in trouble over and many of these people they're not out there as a family doctor seeing dozens of people each week who are coming to them with the vegan community problems. They're just assuming none of these problems exist, and they do exist. And the general advice people are getting is really, we really have to counter that and make sure people take more care. And we're talking about making sure that vitamin D adequate, iodine adequacy, there has to be a source of iodine in the diet. If you're not using iodinated salt, which I'm not recommending. Right. And so without seafood or seaweeds, you could be low in iodine. Without seafood or animal products, you could be low in EPA and DHA. And just eating enough extra walnuts and flax and greens and avoiding oils does not guarantee adequate DHA levels. There's a huge genetic difference between one person and another, and some people doing everything right are still severely deficient. So this assumption that these vegan gurus give people, that we're all carbon copies of each other, and we all and nobody has to supplement with anything except B12, it really damages a lot of people, because we really have to be careful. If you're not going to take those supplements, you at least have to check the blood test that you don't need them, which is very often not the case. Most often not the case.
They could tell with blood work for DHA.
That's right.
Yeah.
They have omega-3 index and DHA levels today. And like, if you have a level above 5, you're fine, but a level below 4, you're putting yourself at risk. In our study that we subsidized, the Nutritional Research Foundation paid for a study done on 166 vegans, and it demonstrated that about a third of them, it was 27% of those vegans were severely deficient in DHA at the levels where you can almost see a high risk of developing brain shrinkage with aging. Wow. And just because they don't have symptoms right now, once they get symptoms, it's too late. Because once the brain shrinks, you can't build it back with taking the right supplements. So you really got to be cautious about this.
Right, definitely. I know Rob had a few questions too. I'll let him chime in.
Thank you, Rich. And again, I just thank you for this opportunity as well. The one question I had, well, I have a bunch for you, of course, Doctor. But the question I have is, when it comes to EPA and DHA, omega-3s, I guess I'm a little confused on how we receive them. Do we only receive them through animal products, or does our body metabolize them? Or I guess I'm confused. If maybe you could elaborate on that.
Sure. Yes, the EPA and DHA are long-chain omega-3 fats. And the body has some ability to take the short-chain omega-3 fats, the ALA, from walnuts and green vegetables and flax seeds, and convert them into first EPA, and then convert the EPA into DHA. So we could make it through eating those right foods. But the ability of our conversion enzymes to manufacture our own EPA and DHA is limited. And we found that the effect varies tremendously from person to person. Some people can make more than other people can make. So the people that can't make it as well get into more trouble because they run lower levels of DHA. Their production of DHA is very poor. So normally, if you were eating animal products, the wild animal products, particularly seafood, supply EPA and DHA in adequate amounts for people who don't convert and make enough themselves. So it's an essential nutrient that's conditional, because some people make a lot and some people don't make a lot, don't make enough of it themselves. Now, it's generally considered fish oil, but you can get this today made from algae. So vegans can get algae-derived EPA and DHA. The one caveat is that fish oils and even DHA algae oils can become rancid with time on the room temperature. And the more they sit out on the shelf of a health food store, or for years even, or they can start to taste like gasoline or be not that healthy. So the issue is getting one that's fresh or that's refrigerated. So I have made available to my clients refrigerated algae, so it was fresher for those people that needed that.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
And I apologize. My power went out, as Rich maybe told you, Doctor, and it's very noisy. I'm at McDonald's, so or not.
Yeah, the only good reason to go to McDonald's, I guess, for the Wi-Fi.
Well, maybe if you're traveling in a different city and you can't find any water, you need a bathroom too. There might be a bathroom.
That's a good point. Which leads to another question I had, because I also loved your latest book about fast food genocide. And I wanted to ask, what do you think is the best way for somebody to break a fast food habit? I mean, what's the first step they should do?
Well, the first step is they should eat their lunch. I want to make this very simple for people, and I want to make the lunch very structured. So I want people to eat for lunch this very simple, structured meal, a giant salad with a nut and seed-based dressing made from nuts and seeds, like blending an orange with some blood orange vinegar or white wine vinegar, some lemon, and some lightly toasted sesame seeds and cashews, a dressing made with nuts and seeds, or it could be tomato sauce with almonds and sunflower seeds and balsamic vinegar and a few raisins and some roasted garlic. You know, we're making a healthy dressing, having a big salad where you're eating a lot of dark greens, and you have a bowl of vegetable bean soup on the weekend. You make a giant bowl of vegetable bean soup on the weekend, and you put it into different containers during the week. So you have the vegetable bean soup or a vegetable bean stew or a chili. So you're having this beans and maybe some fruit or frozen fruit for dessert. So I want people, lunch is the most important meal of the day. It's the first thing I want them to change. Do that first and get your lunch really perfected, because you know your breakfast is a smaller meal. And by the way, your dinner should be a smaller meal anyway, because we should be going to bed on an empty stomach and having our dinner, and we should be eating light at night. So lunch is and if you get your lunch, the meal when you're outside the house, and if you bring that with you and make sure you eat healthy and fill up on a nut and seed based dressing and the beans and the soup and the beans and stuff, you can make your blood sugar stable. It makes your appetite not want to, you don't want to eat food the whole afternoon. You can make it till you get home at 5 or 6 o'clock at night. And then you can, so that's the start, you know, is to get away from fast food restaurants, stop eating food that's outside of the house. When you travel, bring your own food. When you go to work, bring a salad and a bowl of soup with you and a piece of fruit. And wherever you go, get in the habit of having that for lunch. I mean, obviously fast food is not just what we're eating in fast food restaurants. It's also, you know, bagels and cookies and rice cakes and breakfast bars and chips and soft drinks and cold cereals. It's also things people eat in a bag, out of a box. Anything processed I consider a fast food because it's void of nutrients. Right. It can be accessed fast. You can eat it fast. It's not giving you any anti-cancer effects, and it's building up free radicals, advanced glycation end products, and other toxins in your tissues. So you're aging yourself and increasing your risk of cancer when you eat foods that are just empty calorie, foodless foods. We have to eat colorful plants to get the antioxidants in our tissues at every meal, but at least let's start with lunch. That's the place to start.
Definitely, and that's what I've been doing as well. I actually had 2 big salads, one at lunchtime, one closer to dinner time, and you know, I don't lie down right away. But I do eat a lot of salad.
That's key.
Rob, do you have another question?
Yeah, thanks, Rich. So, Doctor, I was wondering, I'm aware, correct me if I'm wrong, that vegans and vegetarians have an expected life expectancy, I should say, longer than the average Americans, such as on the standard American diet. Would you be willing to elaborate on why that is, and what is the expected life expectancy increase for vegans, for instance?
Well, it's not necessarily the case. There are vegans for populations in England, for example, that don't have a longer life expectancy than the general population because they're not eating healthy enough. But the data we have is mostly from the Seventh-day Adventist study. And the Seventh-day Adventist study, Health 1 and 2, showed that the Loma Linda Seventh-day Adventists who were vegans or near vegans lived an average of 10 to 13 years longer than other Caucasian Californians. They generally lived longer. But don't forget, the Adventists also, they don't smoke, they don't recommend smoking, they don't recommend alcohol, they recommend a healthy lifestyle with exercise. So, and they're recommending somewhat of a healthier diet. My travels through that community show they're not eating anywhere near as healthy as the diet I recommend. They're still eating a lot of processed foods and still eating white flour products. In general, it's a much healthier vegan population than the crumpet, ethical vegans in England who aren't living that much longer. But they still live 10 or 15 to 13 years longer. I think we could ratchet that to 15 to 20 years longer if people tweak all the boxes and follow a nutritarian diet. In other words, the average American lives to be about 80 years old. You know, a traditional vegan in America lives to be 90 years old or more, but I think that we can easily get to be 95 to 105 years old if you go the rest of the way to a nutritarian approach, which means eating high nutrient, high anti-cancer plant foods like G-bombs, but also it means supplementing conservatively to make sure you're not deficient in EPA or DHA, B12, vitamin D, zinc, or iodine. When I'm not saying that, so in other words, we just want to make sure we're being careful not to put people in and create deficiencies that can affect their long-term health. So I think if you do all these things, we can easily get 20 years. And in my 30 years of medical practice, I have lots of my patients now that I've been caring for 20 years that came to me in their 70s with heart disease. and are now living in their late 90s and thriving and doing great and not even near thinking of kicking the bucket yet. You know what I mean? So I have so much experience with it, with people that are older doing fantastic for my practice. It's very encouraging. And by the way, I'm 110 myself.
I must say you look great then.
Yeah.
What's that?
And you look amazing for 110. I just want to say, Dr. Grossman.
Thank you.
Yeah, my next question is actually. I'm sorry.
I don't want to steal all your questions. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I had kind of a fun question for Dr. Fuhrman. Do you have a certain favorite food for each of the G bombs? Is there a go-to food that, or do you like them all?
Yeah, well, the G in G bombs, which stands for green vegetables, I want people to eat more of the dark green cruciferous vegetables. So it means eating something like kale or bok choy. And bok choy is not always dark green. There's white in the middle, but that's super healthy. Arugula or watercress or mustard greens or turnip greens or broccoli rabe. In other words, all the dark green. I don't think the cruciferous cauliflower is as nutrient dense as the green cruciferous, even though radishes and cauliflower. But turnip greens are excellent too. So as long as it's something dark green, like a headed cabbage that's cruciferous, that's white in the center, or just a tinge of yellow, wouldn't be preferred or your preferred source of cruciferous. Not that that's bad and you shouldn't eat it, but you should also eat some dark green cruciferous on your salad or in your meal today, because that would be a higher amount of that powerful anti-cancer substance. Among the beans, we want people to eat a variety of beans, but I want them to use some soybeans in their diet, edamame, tempeh, or using dried soybeans, because I think soybeans have tremendous power to protect against breast and prostate cancer. And they have the genistein and other factors have anti-estrogenic effect. They're so beneficial and so powerfully anti-cancer effect. And their protein levels are great for people getting older, because we need more plant protein. More plant protein extends lifespan, slows aging, and more animal protein obviously accelerates aging. So we really want to address the needs for those higher protein plant foods. So I think soybeans are a great food. And other, red and black dark beans that have to be soaked and cooked, wonderful foods. And then onions. People overlook eating scallions, the green onion, the scallion. That's such an important and high powerful food. And also shallots. Shallots are super good for us. They're a little smaller onions. They're a little more, and so it's red onion, shallots, and scallions, probably better than the white onion and the yellow onions to be used in your salads and things. And if you're going to cook them, puree them when they're raw so you don't decrease the formation of the allicin. The allinase enzyme in onion, the allinase enzyme in onion is that makes your eyes tear when it creates the chemical reaction. You don't want to cook the onion first. You want to blend it, and then you want to form those compounds. Then you can put that onion slurry or that scallion slurry into the soup or the chili or to cook. We want to stand this so we can cook it and we can eat it raw, but if we're making it cooked, we want to blend it while it's raw and then add it to the water-based cooking method. Right. And then, so we went to greens, beans, onions, mushrooms. I want people to get a variety of mushrooms in their diet. But I love those shiitake mushrooms. You cut off that little brown root part where it hits the dirt, but the whole stem is edible. And those are chewy and really great onion. But I think if people should eat a variety of mushrooms using even the cheaper white mushroom or comini family or portobello family with the shiitake mushrooms, eat a variety of mushrooms. I use trumpet mushrooms and oyster mushrooms if I can't find them, it also. But and then mushroom berries, right? The blacker berries, and I think the wild blueberries are fantastic. Those little tiny wild blueberries with the heart, they're dark and they're small and they're so powerfully against cancer. And to use some blackberries and things like that in your diet, and to use different berries. And lastly, the seeds. We're talking about that chia seeds and flax seeds and sesame seeds have lignins that powerfully protect against cancer too. The flax seeds have the most lignins. The chia seeds have a lot. I think the flax seeds, let's say, have about 70 milligrams, and the chia seeds might have 40 milligrams, and the sesame seeds might have 10 milligrams. But even the 10 milligrams in sesame seeds is substantial. And as in, you should be eating some seeds every day because they're very powerfully protective against later life.
And flax should always be ground, right?
The seeds should be ground, yes. The sesame seeds don't have to be ground. They can be chewed well.
Mhm.
But
And also
the flax and the chia are better ground. The flax seeds have to be ground. The chia can be chewed, but they're better off ground usually because people swallow them whole and don't chew them very well sometimes.
Yeah. And you're talking about zinc. I do have pumpkin seeds every day. Those are rich in zinc, right?
No.
No?
What I'm saying is you absorb only 20% of the zinc in plant foods compared to 80% in animal products.
So even if you're rich in them, it's still
even if you're eating pumpkin seeds, you couldn't eat enough to assure zinc adequacy if your absorption is low. So I'm concerned that, and you're not going to just eat so much pumpkin seeds anyway. You want to eat you're eating variety. Right. So I think zinc is an issue because if you're not going to have a heart attack or a stroke, and you're not going to get cancer, then the leading cause of death years ago was your immune system poops out and people get pneumonia and other infections. And its studies have already shown that zinc adequacy in the elderly reduces risk of pneumonia and infection, and that zinc absorption goes down with aging, and the low or marginal levels of zinc on a vegan diet could be a cause of a problem in their later life. So I think zinc is something that we have to look at and consider because it's not optimal, and it may not be optimal for all people on a vegan diet. You're getting much lower levels than on an animal product-based diet.
I see. Yeah, Rob, did you have another question?
Oh, I have so many for our doctor, but I'll just pick another one. So doctor, if you had to pick one food, and I understand that it's like a symphony of foods that contribute to our overall health, but if you had to pick one food, if you could, while you were stranded on a deserted island, what food would it be to eat, and maybe why? If you're willing to answer that question, Doctor.
No, I can't answer that because that's not good nutrition to get you that way. You can't have good nutrition eating just one food.
Right.
You can have optimal nutrition, but on the other hand, on a desert island, I could find green vegetables. I know I could find vegetables or leaves to eat. I might be able to find hearts of palm. I know I could find certain things. So given that, I would probably bring things I couldn't find, and probably bring something like almonds with me or something, which are, I can use that for, if I couldn't put that, even if there's coconut on a desert island, I'd probably like to bring maybe walnuts with me, I'm thinking, because walnuts are omega-3 nut, or hemp seeds with me to consider to get my omega-3 ALA from nuts or seeds, and maybe they don't have ALA containing nuts and seeds like walnuts and hemp seeds on a desert island. Maybe I'll take those, assuming I could find fruit on a desert island. I'll bring fruit with me. I could probably find the coconut, or I could find some other berries or fruit, and I could probably find enough green leafy matter, and even eat some starchy vegetables, and even hearts of palm and bamboo shoots on a desert island. So I think I'd get along okay. And I think I certainly, what I want to go with to bring on a desert island most importantly is footwear, because my feet are kind of tender. And I could run around nude and find food in the woods, but I'm not going to go barefoot through those thorns and those rocks running up and down the island. I got to have something good to protect my feet. That's most important.
Yeah, don't blame me there.
It's like those running naked and afraid in the jungle, right? We're talking about the television show where these people and they're starving on the island, and they're being bitten up, and there's worms and there's bugs all around them. They don't eat a bug. I mean, you could certainly eat a bug or dig into the dirt and take out some worms, and if you're really starving. But I'm sure.
Absolutely,
I don't think it's too hard to find food on an island, a natural island in a tropical habitat. We could find plenty of food there.
Right.
And hopefully they have an ice skating rink, right, Dr. Joel Fuhrman?
An ice skating rink?
On the island.
Yeah.
On the island, for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, do you still ice skate, Dr. Fuhrman?
You're welcome, sir.
No, but I love to snow ski and to ski downhill, powder skiing and to mogul skiing. I still enjoy playing around a lot. I like to surf and to snorkel and to done scuba and I still love to play volleyball, beach volleyball. So in other words, I want to be active and enjoy playing around and having fun and climbing, mountains and doing things to enjoy being physical in your later years, and I want to continue doing that as I go into my 70s and 80s. I don't want to be
You're still doing new things.
Potato,
You're still doing new things, and because that's what I'm finding too. I'm going to run my first half marathon this year, for example. I like to set goals.
That's right. We're going to enjoy playing. I'm going to do some new things too. I'm doing some new things. I'm looking forward to learning things I've never done before. Like I've never done like those kite surfing. Where you're holding on to this kite and you're surfing on a surfboard through the kite or something. Never tried that. I've never done a lot of things I haven't done. I might want to even get better, so I might want to try a lot of different things as I'm getting a little older here. And, I'm finding that as I'm getting older, my singles tennis game gets better because I'm still as fit and fast, but I have more time to, to really understand the game and protect this and improve the strokes with playing it as I age. So what people are getting, I can finally get it to, I can finally see these professional tennis players that are my age are now aging and getting slow and losing their skills. And now finally I could beat them because I'm not losing my skills or getting slower.
Right. Yeah, and I know what you're talking about. Other 40-year-olds, they just they don't have much energy. A lot of people.
Well, I'm 65, so I'm going to get to be 70. I'll really have an advantage. Or
yeah,
get to be,
exactly.
I'm waiting. I could really do well. The problem with me is that my friends from high school and college are like old men now that sit around the couch with big pot bellies. So I have to have friends that are younger.
Right.
But I do have a lot of nutritarian friends that I've had for years. Some of my friends have been nutritarians for years, and they're older than me, and they're in great health, and we bomb down the mountains, and we have fun like little kids, and we're not aging like our peers are who haven't eaten this healthy,
Right. Do you have a certain set amount of exercise that you recommend each week, or do you
How
think
much
it varies?
exercise?
Yeah. Do you think it varies by person?
Because if you're out of shape and you can't do much exercise, you need to exercise multiple times a day because you can't do that much. If you're in really good shape and you exercise a lot, you can do like an hour and a half every other, or every, so the more you can do, the less often you have to do it. So but I think you should try to do something each day to stay up moving around a little bit. But as far as, very aggressive exercise and very tiring, and that you probably don't have to do every day.
Right. Yeah, because I try to do 4 to 5 days of strength training a week, but not many people are able to do that. But I don't work out the same muscles every day. But
yeah, I probably do 2 to 3 days. I probably do 2 days of strength training in the gym, and the other day I might just bike or run or play tennis or do something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Rob, you have another question?
Hey, Rich, Doctor, another question. Yeah, Dr. Fuhrman. So DNA repair. Well, I just want to say the micronutrient-rich nutritarian lifestyle has what's changed my life. The energy I have and the mental focus, the clarity, all of that stuff has improved tremendously beyond how I can describe it. I've never felt better in my life with the nutritarian lifestyle. Can you repair DNA damage done with this lifestyle, and how does that work? For instance, DNA damage done by the standard American diet, for instance.
That's right, and that's why people need to adopt the nutritarian diet. That's why it's not good enough to just you follow these vegetarian or vegan diets that are not designed to be maximally to contain all the density and the variety of nutrients, because it's the NRF2 transcription proteins that fuel the antioxidant response element in the cell. In other words, the ARE, or the antioxidant response element in the cell, is the part of the DNA that codes for the proteins that remove free radicals and repair broken DNA cross-links and help remove methylation and repair methylation defects. In other words, the body has built into its genetic code the ability to repair and heal, but only if it's fueled with sufficient phytochemicals. And the phytochemical that's most effective at activating the NRF2 transcription proteins, which then read and activate the ARE, the phytochemical, the green vegetable phytochemicals, the isothiocyanates coming from green cruciferous vegetables. So we're talking about the fact that greens modulate your lifespan. You eat a diet low in greens, you shorten your life. You want to lengthen your lifespan, you increase the DNA repair, you eat a diet higher in green vegetables. So it's just eating a macrobiotic diet, or what do they call these diets? A low-fat, high-carb vegan diet, mostly potatoes and rice, are not designed to maximize longevity. Maybe they're made more inexpensive because you can live on like some of these grains or cheaper foods, but you can't change the reality that eating greens and beans and mushrooms and onions, that eating green vegetables is an advantage, and you have to eat them, and eating them both raw and conservatively cooked, putting them in soups or stews or smoothies, or any way you get them into you, is going to enhance your life. And that's what the data shows. The data on long-term studies with hundreds of thousands of people, so that increased green vegetables mean for lengthening of lifespan.
Do you think smoothies affect the blood sugar? Um, is it best to avoid smoothies, or
Well, no, smoothies are an okay to eat foods. I mean, they help people get in more greens into them. But we don't want them to put high glycemic fruits in there. Maybe a little berries, a little strawberry, a wild blueberry, or just, but we want it to be a green smoothie or a blended salad. It's not a fruit smoothie or blended fruit. Fruits, they should be chewing and mixing with saliva and eating, not blending. But a little bit of berries or a little bit of low sugar fruits or a small amount where it's mostly greens, the glycemic effect is still going to be low. So the glycemic effect of the whole meal, it adds up with all the foods you're eating. You want the glycemic effect of the meal to be low. It's not the one food you're eating, it's how everything else adds up together. So I think green smoothies can be part of a wholesome diet for sure.
Okay. And yeah, that's one other question I had.
I'm sorry, Rich, did you ask if I had another question again?
Well, I was looking at my questions.
Yeah,
oh yeah, there's
so
another important question I had. This I've been seeing in the news. I believe it was in England. And you hear about this every now and then. Mothers who get in trouble because they're raising their babies as vegans. How would you address if they're ethical and they want to raise their babies as vegans? What should they be doing?
Well, that's right. I mean, it's the same things we're talking about here, that the baby's brain needs DHA, you know, and if the mother's deficient in DHA, you could be chancing the baby's brain development. So we need protein, we need DHA, we need calcium, we need B12. We have to make sure these mothers are not deficient. So they have to make sure they have adequate iron and B12 and vitamin D and K, and you know, we're talking about all these nutrients they need, which means number one, the diet has to be healthy, like we're discussing, right? So, and number two, they have to make sure they're not deficient themselves in B12 or DHA, which can be bad for the elderly, but when you have these marginal issues with babies, it's the same as for an elderly person. In other words, a diet may be okay to be a potato rice diet in your 30s and 40s, but it's not enough protein for the elderly. And they're going to develop, their IGF-1 may drop too low and they'll get too frail. They need more protein, greens and beans and hemp seeds. They need more protein. And the same thing with the toddlers. Like a macrobiotic diet or a potato-based diet could be too low in fat and too low in protein for a child and for a baby, and too even low for the mother during pregnancy. The fact that a nutritarian diet is heavier in the high protein plant foods like edamame and beans and hemp seeds and green vegetables and black beans, when soybeans, we're talking about make sure your diet has protein adequate, you're eating the higher protein plant foods, and make sure you're not deficient in B12, and take some added EPA or DHA that can protect the baby's brain. That's most importantly. That's most important, you know?
Yeah, great advice, definitely. Because yeah, those first couple of years, I'm sure, are the most important part of the you know, as they grow.
It's forever been a thorn in my side that you know, of course, we're looking at the paleo community and the ketogenic community, advising people diets that are deadly and shorten people's lives.
Yeah.
And then we have the vegan community telling people you don't have to eat nuts and seeds, you don't have to take DHA, you don't have to take supplements, and they're messing people up and causing problems as well. And so it's like nobody is being conservative and careful in saying that if you're not going to eat animal products, make sure you're not getting yourself deficient. And then all the other people are just forcing animal products now because they know that all these people became deficient on a vegan diet and they developed troubles. They went back to eating meat. You know, so it's like you have all people are on both sides so confused. It's so frustrating. We all should come together. It's not complicated. We want to eat either a vegan diet or a near vegan diet. You can have a small amount of animal products, but then any diet of the large amount of animal products, you know, even above 10%, you start to see IGF-1 go up into unfavorable levels. You know, so even at the American diet is 30% of calories from animal products, but even at all the blue zones are below 10%. But I'm suggesting the nutritarian diet is designed more specifically to extend lifespan, much greater than a blue zone. Because a blue zone, they're just eating foods that they could find in their area that happen to be healthy. They're not optimally designing a diet for longevity. It's just whatever they're eating or whatever they could grow there.
Right.
The nutritarian diet is more specific to use modern food technology and food science to make the diet more biologically complete and make sure we're not missing anything that could affect lifespan or health span. And we can do much better than the blue zones. But on the other hand, what I'm saying right now is that some people see their IGF-1 go to unfavorable levels as they go above 10%, 15%, 20% of calories from animal products. All the blue zones are below 10%. But some people, even around the 10% figure, may get too much IGF-1. It's certainly better to be between 0 and 5% of animal products. But when you get to that level of 0 to 5%, that's ideal for longevity, then you start to run into possibility of marginal deficiencies of B12, DHA, and zinc, and which have to be considered. So we got to make sure people don't mess themselves up.
Definitely, definitely. Rob, did you have another question?
Yeah, and so Doctor, the nutritarian lifestyle, because it's a lifestyle, of course, is designed to enhance lifespan and promote lifespan. And of course, the standard American diet was designed by that word that I can't say, correct?
Yeah, I always say the standard American diet's been designed by ISIS, right? Because
there you go. And they're not the ones that skate like you do, Doctor.
They're not the ones that what?
They're not the by ISIS. They don't skate around ISIS. Correct. But was designed by Al Qaeda. Correct.
Right. So that's right. I mean, we know that these processed carbohydrates, especially like the bagels and the croissants, the white bread that people are eating, and the white rice, these high glycemic carbohydrates are in a honey and maple syrup. These high glycemic carbs people are eating are dangerous. It's not just the animal products. We have on one hand, our population is eating white flour, pizza and burgers, and they're throwing a slab of barbecued meat or cheese on top of that white flour. So it makes it worse because you're getting more excess insulin and excess IGF-1 and full of heterocyclic amines and other nitrosamino compounds. We're getting all these damaging effects from the barbecue and the roasting and the baking and the meat. So we just have the worst diet ever in the history, the design of human history. We couldn't have even made it worse. The point I'm making right now is that if you bake or broil or fry foods, you cause more carcinogenic compounds, whether the food is, so you have to, if you're using cooked foods, most of your cooked foods should be water-based cooking, stews and soups and pressure cookers and, and cooking things with steaming them or walking them in water. So we're not burning, dry cooking and burning things out and browning them and making them become crispy and fried and things like that, because that's not good for us either.
Yeah, of course.
And the last issue that people always talk about is using oil on their food, and frying foods is really dangerous, and putting extra calories in their diet, because oil just pours calories right on your food. And we're talking about a diet to be healthy has to be moderately caloric restricted. There's no such thing as a healthy person that's overweight. It doesn't exist. You have to take the empty calories out of your diet, particularly the low nutrient empty calories like oil. Oil shortens lifespan, and oil causes cancer, and oil causes heart attacks. The best oils, I don't care what oil you're eating. If you're eating oil, you're getting fat. And if you're getting fat, you're producing more inflammation. And you're producing angiogenesis promoters and making yourself insulin resistant. And that insulin resistance is going to, from being overweight, is going to increase the risk of diabetes, depression, dementia, and even cancer. So the oil is going to be a promoter of cancer because it makes you fatter. You shouldn't be taking and pouring empty calories low in your food.
Yeah,
right,
that was
Doctor.
definitely the beginning to give up oil. I'm so glad I did. I haven't touched it in years. I won't cook with it or anything. I won't use it on salads. And
but you could use the oil to get a massage. If you're rubbing your oil on your skin and get a massage with it, maybe you can take it out of your cabinet and use it. Right.
Yeah, good point.
Or you could lubricate your machinery in your garage with it.
Yeah, the only good use for it.
Hey, Doctor, I'm a big fan, and I hope I'm not jumping in here, of your books. And I just wanted to mention a couple of them. Eat to Live, Super Immunity. Eat to Live has changed my life. That was the game changer for me. And Eat for Health, but amazing books. And the work you do.
Thank you so much. But I want people to read The End of Dieting. Eat to Live has a flaw in it. The flaw in Eat to Live is that it enables people to cheat a little too much, because it enables them to like eat the diet 90% and go off it a little bit. And for a lot of people who are food addicts and triggers, going off it a little bit makes them go off it more. And it's not, so I want them to really, I'd rather them read The End of Dieting, especially because it really goes into how to get rid of emotional overeating and addictive eating, and to recognize that doing this 100% is easier, more rewarding, more, and it makes it actually easier to do it 100% than doing it 90 or 95%. So one of people, so Eat to Live might be more popular because it allows people to cheat a little more. But I'd rather people to jump into one of my books that are later versions of Eat to Live, that don't encourage so much, don't enable people to cheat a little bit and eat things they shouldn't be eating as much. And for especially people who are overweight and jumping on and off diets, The End of Dieting is a better choice book for them. And my most recent book, Fast Food Genocide, is a very fascinating book, as if you read it, is probably, people don't recognize how important and interesting and different that book is. It's knowledge people really need to have.
Yeah, because I was thinking about food deserts, and I think you addressed that in the book. And you know, there's a lot of that in this country. I work in a city that has this kind of a food desert.
And a lot of mental illness now developing, and anger and violence and mental illness. And it used to be 1 in 100 Americans are mentally ill. Now it's 1 in 5 are mentally ill.
Wow.
Who's talking about the food? Nobody's talking about the food and the frankenfoods in the fast food industry, and how destructive it is to the human brain. And we're having an epidemic of opiate use and drug use and illegal drug use and all these things going on that stems from this fast food mentality we have. And the American eating style. So it's really destructive to our society and where we're heading as a world and as a nation. It contributes to it. And of course, there's so much has to be done to recorrect the direction we're moving in this country, world today. To really,
if you think about the ads you see on TV, you know, you see these fast food places that are driving people there, and then you see the prescription drugs to cure whatever their bad diet is doing. Then you'll hear about lawsuits to cover, you know, the side effects of the drugs. So it's really a mess. And
exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and I opened up a retreat in California now, where I have people that are overweight and sickly and food addicts. And you know, their food addiction is so severe now that even when people know what they should do, they can't. It's like stopping cocaine. They can't get off their fast foods. They can't do it. But by me housing them in my facility for 4 to 12 weeks, usually 8 to 12 weeks, I'm able to use my psychological counseling and the food and use that as therapy, and really, with time, get rid of their addictive behaviors and the way they think about food, and change these people's personalities and enable them to enjoy eating healthfully and get back to their health again. For some people, it's the only way to save them, is to really, it's almost like an intervention in their life to take them out of their life and lock them away and make sure they can get healthy, because they can't do it on their own. It's so, because they don't underestimate the addictive nature of these foods. It's killing people left and right. And that's why I opened up this place where I could help people who wanted help. Most people don't even know they're that sick, and they're just on their way to destruction with their food-based behaviors. But if people want help, I've put together the facility where I can help them and get them back to good health again, you know?
Definitely. Well, for me, I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm amazed, just as anybody else is, that I was able to make this change, because I was, addicted to the food myself. And
you did it on your own. That was phenomenal. It's incredible.
It really kind of fascinates me why some people are able to change and others aren't, you know.
Absolutely. And how much weight have you lost, by the way?
150 pounds.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And to think I kept it off too, because I was one of those people that did the yo-yo dieting. And
yeah, so many people have done that. They've yo-yo dieted, they lost it. And then once they found about this program and they changed their life long enough, they enjoy this way of eating, they want to have great health. It makes them be more creative, they're thinking more logically, they love the recipes, their taste improves, and they can stay with this forever. So it's just an incredible blessing, and the blessing of appreciation for natural foods that just grant you such great health, can't be beat. So with that,
Well, there's one thing I want to add to that, because it's a good way to end this. A lot of people say to me that I have a willpower of steel. I get that often. But to me, I don't think it takes willpower to be eating these foods that you enjoy. And I do think it becomes enjoyable after you do it.
That's right. It doesn't. Eventually, it doesn't take willpower, but
Right.
sometimes getting started is difficult for people. To get started in doing this. Once you get them started right, and they're willing to feel a little uncomfortable for a week or two, then it gets easier.
They want to keep doing it.
Yeah, they got to learn the information to see the power of this, that it's really worth the effort.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's so great to talk to you guys, and so proud of you, Richard, that you've achieved that you've achieved such great health and kept your weight off and you're going to be a great health the rest of your life. You're not going to ever gain it back because we become different people. I know who you are right now. You're a vegetarian who's never going to even think of going back to the old way of eating.
Yeah, no way. I don't ever intend to.
No way. It's like you couldn't get 10 men to tie me down and force me to eat that garbage, right? Just like
exactly.
you.
That's exactly it. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. So good talking to you guys and wishing everybody and say goodbye, Petey. So Petey.
Oh yeah, what a great dog he is. What kind of dog is that?
Hey, Petey, I can't put here. It's been a pleasure, Doc. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Have a good night, everybody.
See you guys, everybody.